How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Agave and Cactus Talk. I'm on my way home right now, and I'm driving through the LA Forest, along the 2. And I thought it'd be a great time to record a little podcast on our good friend Chapparal Yucca, right? So that's a nickname. What is this plant's Latin name? It's HesperoYucca Whipplei, and yucca was recently broken up into 2. So now you got HesperoYucca HesperoYucca, and you got yucca, right? So, for instance, Yucca brevifolia, which is Joshua tree, would be a yucca, and HesperoYucca Whipplei would be a HesperoYucca. So the nickname for this plant, actually by Mexican indigenous south of the border, pre-colonialism, was Quixote, which, if you know Spanish, you know that Quixote is the Spanish word for flowers, for the agave flower stalk. And that always really stood out to me when I would read little snippets about the Chapparal Yucca, right? I'm like, man, it kind of sounds like an agave, And then the more I read on the plant, I realized that HesperoYucca, yucca, agave, dacilarion, a lot of these plants were actually in the same genus for a long time, up until I think the 50s or 60s, where they split it up into a whole bunch of them, and they're still in the same family. But my point is, going back just 50 years, agave and HesperoYucca were seen as the same plant. And in the United States, HesperoYucca Whipplei in Los Angeles County specifically has been used for over an estimated 5,000 to 7,000 years for utilitarian values, right? So they made clothes, sandals, belts, baskets, anything that you could weave from it, any textiles that you could make. They used it for that. They used it for starting fires, because the fiber is, once you dry it, very flammable material. It's easy to start a fire. They made different fermented drinks from the sap, or that is in the piñas. Sorry, not the piñas. What was I trying to say there? The flower stalks. So while they didn't copy Mexico in utilizing the piñas to make a fermented drink, they did utilize it to make a fermented drink from the flower stalk, which was even more interesting to me. And when I say they right now, I'm talking about the indigenous people that would be local to Los Angeles County. So specifically in the LA Forest region, for instance, you'll have groups like the Serrano, right? And there are lots of groups, right, like that got to touch the forest, or were here at least temporarily throughout the year. So, you got lots of tribes such as the Chumash, which were pretty large as well, extending into the area. And, there's a whole bunch of different ones. But my point is, these indigenous people, through their tribal cultures, were utilizing Chapparal Yucca, right? And this really interested me, because they were utilizing it for food, fibers, and they made medicine. They used the points as needles, all types of stuff. The leaves as roofing. The more I read about it, the more I'm like, this shit's, they were looking at it like an agave, because it was used in pretty much the same way. They even made roast pits to roast them up here in LA County, And, why is Chapparal Yucca of particular importance to me, you could say? Well, I really believe that it's LA's best shot at, well, I won't say best. It's one of LA's best shot at dry farming an agave or an agave-like plant, right? So if this is already prospering with no added irrigation from humans, no added fertilizers, no added stuff, right? It's basically like agaves in Mexico where it just grows fucking wild everywhere. Then it has a lot of potential, you know, and through the LA forest, you know, at the beginning of it, it's very foresty, like on the La Cañada side, and then you go over to the Lancaster side, and it's pretty much a desert, you know, with a few Joshuas and pines scattered. So, and then you go up to Northern California, you know, you go to the San Diego areas. I mean, they're everywhere, and the different subspecies of it is also everywhere, blooming all over, not just along Highway 2 here and, you know, LA County. But yeah, they're already prospering without our effort. If we can figure out a way to start like mass propagating them all over California on our farms, then they'd probably prosper as a dry farming crop that doesn't require really much work from humans except at the harvest stage, right? And much like agave, you kind of want to build stress into the plant so that they, you know, give really good sugars and are, you know, making some really good genetics for the next generation, right? So taking this all into account, I was like, wow, like, you know, Chapparal Yucca seems to me like it's an excellent crop to be farmed in California, right? So I started collecting wild seed from my properties and essentially utilizing that seed to what do you call it? Start you know, a whole bunch of this Chapparal Yucca, right? So why is it very important to start it from seed? Because I wanted to make sure that it was, you know, particular to where I'm going to start farming, right? And then I started running into some issues, which, you know, I was like, a lot of these fucking HesperoYucca Whipplei look very, very different. So then I went and I read this paper, long-ass paper, 76-page paper, on why, what do you call it, why HesperoYucca and Whipplei was so important, right? And I realized that in this research they were pinpointing the differences in the seed started HesperoYucca Whipplei down to different subspecies, and they realized that starting, for instance, like if they started subspecies A, they could still have a potential to get subspecies B or subspecies C. And this is something that was very interesting to me because I had observed it in agave utaensis before, right? So, agave utaensis, besides the largest cultivar, which is capensis and considered the oldest cultivar, you have agave utaensis subspecies Iboraspina, subspecies nevadensis, and subspecies utaensis. And all those three subspecies I've literally gotten from reliable growers, from stocks that I've identified and confirmed with people that grow the crop in mass, that this is an Iboraspina or a nevadensis. And I'll plant that seed and get either of the three subspecies. And I'm just like, what the fuck, you know? But it's interesting because, like Chapparal Yucca, the different microclimates where that seed is started directly influences which subspecies you're going to get. So hopefully in later research we can recreate those conditions to have now consistent subspecies genetics. Because, for instance, a lot of people tell me this. They say, well, an Iboraspina usually is a very smaller version of the utaensis agave. And then they say, then some of them will start looking more blue and more wide and look much more like a nevadensis, but it was started from an Iboraspina, so they still call it an Iboraspina. But and then they'll have nevadensis that grow, 4-inch spines and are very compact. And then, the point I'm getting at here is that the species are overlapping, the subspecies, and we're basically pinning it down to different microclimactic factors, or they were pinning it down to different microclimactic factors in the Chapparal Yucca, And now I'm starting to believe that this research is useful for the agave utensis, because I think the same shit is happening. A little sidetrack there, but yeah, Chapparal Yucca, you know, it interests me a lot because it acts a lot like the shit I've seen in agave. That's why I went off that sidetrack. But yeah, Chapparal Yucca, there is a bunch of different subspecies. Some of them can be on the compact side, some of them can be on the larger side. And what I realized was that, you know, I would like to grow the larger of the subspecies, and to do that, I need to do more research to make sure that I'm able to recreate the environment that they are coming out most similar to that subspecies, if you get me, if you follow the drift there, right? Like if I use climatic conditions A, B, C, D of humidity, the soil, what do you call it, fertilization, or whatever these different factors are, and then I'm getting like a 90% of this subspecies to be what I want, right? Like it's staying consistent, then you know you can recreate that to make sure that you get the subspecies that you actually want, and not just let random choice be, you know. But, you know, the difference, the bad part about that, now thinking about it, is probably going to be that nature's choosing this on purpose. So, like, it's saying, you know, based on these microclimatic factors, I believe subspecies A should be propagated out instead of subspecies B. So if you try to, you know, force that, you could say, and try to get more of whatever subspecies you're actually looking for, then those plants are going to be weaker in that environment, right? Because nature is literally telling you, like, this is the one, you know what I mean? So, yeah, fucking HesperoYucca Whipplei, very, very interesting plant. Like I mentioned, it has thousands of years of cultivation in California, and it reminds, you know, I call it the Sotol of California just because, like Sotol, it was another type of, you know, plant that was used in the same way as agave, same fashion, literally called Quixote, as I mentioned, by the Mexican indigenous tribes in northern Mexico that had access to this Chapparal Yucca. And you start to realize that you can treat it as such, right? So you can farm it like an agave, you can utilize it like an agave, you can make products out of it like an agave. And I mean, what better agave to grow in California or in LA County than one that is local, right? Even though it's a HesperoYucca, who the fuck cares what Latin name it has? If it's able to give you a good brix, a good piña, good fiber, all this stuff, you get, you know, like I don't give a fuck. I mean, you know, I grow yucca, HesperoYucca, I grow agave, I grow what other plants from the asparagus, or what do you call it? I think I said Dacelarion already, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. You know, Fucrea. There's a whole bunch of them that I grow from that family, and it's because they're all, in my eyes, pretty much agave. You know what I mean? Like, they could put different labels on them, whatever. The indigenous didn't do that, and I'd rather follow the indigenous. You know, like they knew it for longer, and they knew it more closely than a botanist from Europe or from the United States classifying, you know, a plant that indigenous used for thousands of years. So, I mean, it's kind of like the whole agave tequiliana bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, tequiliana is a fucking French botanist. Like, the fact that we named the most used agave plant in Mexico after some fucking French botanist. Like, you know how disrespectful that shit is? If you know history, the French fucking colonized Mexico, man. It's like, and then we killed the guy who fucking, what do you call it, you know, was put in power by the French Empire. So it's like, you know, they literally colonized our agave name, because agave tequiliana was actually 4 different agaves that they, you know, they said, okay, well, all these are subspecies tequilianas, right? So you got the one that they recognize as Blue Weber or agave tequiliana, just straight out, which would be, you know, genetically speaking, agave tequiliana subspecies, for instance, azule. And azule was the name that the indigenous gave to agave tequiliana, right? And there's other ones such as listado. You know, there's 4 that were pre-colonial times used, you know, from the tequiliana subgroup, right? So they chose the fastest growing and kind of just put the other 3 to the side and did a bunch of monoculture, which is a huge issue. We always talk about that on the podcast, but yeah, the point is they just fucking jacked our most significant plant besides cactus, probably. Like cactus and agave are probably the only, like the 2 most significant crops. Oh no, I'll take that back. Put it this way: agave, cactus, and corn are the 3 most significant crops for Mexicans throughout history, right? So seeing it from that angle, agave, you know, the most important agave in Mexico should probably carry an indigenous name, not a fucking French botanist name, right? That's why I refer to agave villemoriana as a mole. I refer to agave podotorum as tovula. You know, these are indigenous names that I believe are much more respectful to use. You know what I mean? I think it's pretty sad that they colonized not only the word but the whole style as well, because indigenous people did not practice monoculture. That is something, you know what I mean, completely brought from the old world and sadly installed on the new world. And when I say old world, new world, old world is Europe and new world is the Americas, right? Like historically speaking. So yeah, they installed monoculture in an area where for thousands of years they had systems improving themselves every fucking season based off, you know, indigenous technical knowledge, and those soils were improving, the plants were improving, they had polycultures, and yeah, they didn't have monoculture. So it's a really interesting thing for me, how stuff has you know, panned out here in the world. 1 second, I'm trying to get past these fucking carritos. Oh, I hate people that are like, they drive like straight noobs, you know. But anyways, yeah. So getting back to Chapparal Yucca, I believe, you know, I've already made some drinks out of it. I've made some spirits out of it. Not gonna lie. And now I'm farming a whole bunch of it, and I got a bunch of seedlings. But how did I get mature plants before I farmed them, right? Well, I mentioned I have a lot of land in the LA Forest, and they grow naturally there. So, like, ones that were about to go into Quixote, I just fucking harvested. And, you know, you can expect anywhere from a 20... I think the lowest one I got a Brix reading on was like a 24 or a 25. And the highest might have been like a 33 or a 34, 35, kind of pushing that. Maybe, let's just say 33 to be safe. Not bad sugars, you know, not bad sugars for a dry farm crop. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of potential there, I think, to see what is possible. You know, it's not going to give the largest piñas all the Chapparal Yucca, but, you know, the largest of the subspecies is still producing a plant that is as large as a podotorum or a cupriata. You know, it's a fairly significant size. You know, it's not small, not large. It's medium, I'd say. You know, when they're that 3-4 foot range, and it makes them manageable. You know, in that range too. Like, a lot of people tell me, oh yeah, I'd like a smaller agave americana. I don't want this 16-foot wide fucking agave that I have to harvest with a fucking excavator. And I understand that, and I always recommend to them, get yourself a Medio Picta Alba, you know, the white-blue agave americana. They call it the fucking white-striped agave americana in some places. But, yeah, that's a great one that will only get 4 or 5 feet. and it'll grow pretty quickly. Agave Americana lemon lime is another one like that. Agave Americana durangensis, stay the fuck away from. That guy's a monster. But yeah, there's different other small Agave Americana cultivars or subspecies or hybrids that, you know, they're pretty good, honestly. I fuck with them. But yeah, HesperoYucca Whipplei, I think the only place it's not native is the fucking desert, and I'm growing it in the desert. So if I can grow it there, I mean, in the greenhouse I can grow anything, right? But we'll see if they live outdoors without, you know, in my dry farming mode, right? Because it's like I installed a whole bunch of Afghan pines which are drought tolerant, and they all were starting to die, and I just let them die, you know? I'm not going to adjust my style to the plants. The plants need to adjust themselves to me. If it doesn't work, I have no problem losing hundreds or thousands and saving myself a magnitude of 10 or 100 or 1,000 times that in the long run by taking care of shitty genetics and shitty plants, right? So you can choose however the fuck you want to run your farm, but for me, I've always wanted minimal. What I'm trying to maximize here is profit. I want to have no irrigation, no fertilizers, no fucking shade tarps, no greenhouses. Like, you know, to do this, you need to choose very hardy plants, and unfortunately, the Afghan pine didn't make it. We did try a few, and I'm leaving one that I'm still watering just because I like the tree. But when you plant 10, 20 trees and give it a shot like that, you're looking for a tree. Like, look at my Palo Verde. I water my Palo Verde like once a month with some dirty-ass goat bucket water. That, guys, all of them are prospering. I have dozens of them. Now, you know, I got some mulberries that are doing similar. I got some, you know, cypresses, some different shaded mulberries doing similar. But I'm giving up on the pines, the pomegranates, different crops that just require too much water, to be honest with you. And, you know, I don't mind giving a lot of water for, like, the first few years so they could get established and shit. But, like, if it's, like, you know, a consistent thing, man, I mean, I've given up on so many different plants. I mean, I've given up on plants I loved in Los Angeles that I knew would just not work in the long run. One of those has been crepe myrtle, like I mentioned, Afghan pine, olive trees. Again, I love them, but too much water. Yeah, just, you know, you got to go with your style. Don't try to adjust yourself to a plant, whatever, right? Because then you're gonna have like 1,000 different fucking levels of how to take care of shit. What you want is one way to take care of shit, and everything that fits in that fucking one way, you could work with that, right? You don't want to have water loving, water hating, medium water shit. Like, nah, you need consistency. You get me? Because if you don't have that, then shit starts to get all fucking jumbled and mumbled and very complicated things to do, right? So, man, this truck that I drive, the Toyota Tundra, I'm seeing it all over here in Pasadena because all these construction people have it. Like, I'm looking at a parking lot right now, and there's like 4 of them, and I'm like, God damn, bro. I got the first gen, and yeah, I love it, but I knew it was gonna hit as a truck because it's so fucking nice of a truck, big on power, good on price, right? Ford, you tripping for what you want for a truck. You tripping right now. But yeah, back to Chapparal Yucca here. Trying to think what else I can talk about as far as Chapparal Yucca, right? So I told you a little bit about its history, what it was used for. I told you why it's very similar to agave in a lot of cases. It comes from the same family. Well, yeah, I just wanted to tell you that it's a cool plant too because of what I was talking about, I think, at the beginning of this, which is that it can bloom throughout the whole year, from spring to winter, depending on, you know, the climate, right? In LA, really, our winters are so mild that it probably considers a winter like a late fall or early spring. And the Quixotes continue blooming throughout the whole year pretty much in a lot of the different places, right? that is very significant, because a lot of different agaves, they're going to be all blooming at the same time, and they're all going to be blooming the same, like when that happens, when they're blooming all at the same time, it can become kind of annoying, because that happens to me pretty often with the bulbs, where like I'm literally having to collect like fucking 100,000 bulbs or like 1,000,000 fucking seed, and I'm just like, 2-3 in the morning with fucking headlamps, trying to get this stuff, and it's like, dude, I'm a hard worker, and I could work day and night, but it's like, you reach a limit sometimes too, man, and like you want to kind of have this spread out over the whole year, ideally, instead of like, all right, yeah, they're all going to come at the same time. And that's why monoculture kind of sucks too, because when you plant all similar age, they're all going to come out at the same time, the same month even, probably, and you want, for instance, like, even if you do plant the same species, stagger it out every 3 months, maybe like an acre or two, or whatever you want to do, because that way you'll have some, like, say when the first blooms start, you'll have some in every season, and then you might have some over several years, and that's a much more manageable way to harvest your bugel, your seed, or your quixotes, even to sell that as a food crop. You know what I mean? So when they all come at once, it's a lot, dude. Not an issue that I ever dealt with on my family's farms in Mexico, because we chopped down all the quixotes. We were like the bad guys that I always talk about, chopping down all the quixotes, right? And now people are starting to learn, like, okay, leave your quixotes. We need more genetic differentiation in Jalisco. But my first ways that I learned with agave or yucca were to just chop that down, right? Or it was going to affect the agave pina. And now I know, man, there's a lot of benefits to leaving the quixote. And I had to come to America, I guess, to realize that, because in Mexico we don't really give a fuck about the quixote. Now recently, because of the whole tequila and mezcal booms and stuff, and people are like, oh, we love the bats, and it's straight fronted, but that's what they say. So it's all right. I think it's good, even if people are sometimes not genuine. You know what I mean? I think it's good that more people are talking about the bats, the flowers, and what can be done for pollinators, for humans, and all this stuff, right? For the agave species as well, right? I think it's really good stuff. But yeah, I'm about to arrive to my home, so I'm trying to think really quick if there's anything else that I'm missing about Chapparal Yucca, right? You can make wine out of it, not only spirits. You can make different stuff, like I mentioned, out of the quixotes. And here's the thing there, like, I don't know if the whole, like, making wine out of the quixote is only a fucking HesperoYucca Whipplei thing, or if, like, the research is just lacking, like we historians didn't figure that out yet. Because if it, like here's my thing, right? Like, if this knowledge was spread throughout all the Americas, of how agave can be roasted and utilized, you think the fucking quixote shit didn't spread from the fucking indigenous people in in the present day United States portion of North America to Latin America? Like, that to me sounds ridiculous. That shit flew up, but then it didn't go down, right? Because you see agave and corn in fucking caves in, like, the East Coast and Mississippi and shit, and then you see, the indigenous United States, or present day United States people's goods all the way down in Mexico. So this knowledge had to be exchanged, and I believe that probably people in Mexico were probably experimenting a lot and utilizing the quixotes a lot, but people just over time forgot that, right? And it's really interesting to me because the quixotes are also consumable. You could eat them. They're kind of like cane sugar if you roast them. So they were probably just, I think these indigenous people that were making wine from the quixotes, I think they had, like, a lot of different agaves, HesperoYuccas, all this shit that they were utilizing to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was just HesperoYucca Whipplei. I think it was several different species and subspecies. So that's the cool thing there. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Chapparal Yucca. A little bit, 30 minutes. I just let down. Fuck. Well, yeah, I guess I talked a bit about Chapparal Yucca, but I believe it's a great crop to dry farm, and more people should be utilizing HesperoYucca Whipplei. And if today's podcast has taught you anything about HesperoYucca Whipplei, it's that it's versatile as fuck, it's hardy as fuck, and it has 1,000 uses, much like agave. So go out there, no matter if you're in NorCal, SoCal, fucking whatever part of Cal, go grow some HesperoYucca Whipplei, and I guarantee you won't be fucking disappointed. Well, I won't guarantee you, but I can almost guarantee you that unless you suck, you'll like the plant. So, yeah, go out there and check it out. But have a great rest of the day, everyone. I'm going to be planting some agave right now at my house. And then I'm going to go plant some more agave at my farm later. And then even more tomorrow at a greenhouse. We've fucking got agave everywhere here today, guys. It's alright. Yeah. But, yeah, I'll catch you on the next one, guys.